We're the only electric utility company to meet Louisiana's reliability standards for each of the last 25 years. And last year, we kept the lights on more than 99.9% of the time. That's what keeps CLECO energized.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It is 96 degrees. What a view here from the Cenla Broadcasting Tower, looking at a shower out there. I don't think it's a thunderstorm right now, but just west of Boise, seeing some pretty decent rain. We're going to get into the tropical stuff, but let's get through just tons of information here. Beautiful view, though, so I wanted to pop that up and always take a look at one of the cameras. So what we have right now is, first off, we have a lot of heat. You know that. Heat advisories, excessive heat warnings, so it ranges from the advisories over most of our area to excessive heat warnings in the northern and southeastern parts of the state. It's hot everywhere, so you want to be careful and, the whole common sense thing I talk about so often. But we do have some thunderstorms dropping in. Now, unfortunately, these aren't going to cool us off for the daytime hours. It's going to come in the evening here, but I do think we'll get some beneficial rainfall out of these, at least for some locations, as scattered storms drop in from the north. Here's what it looks like closer up. You can see those storms now dropping into Wynn Parish. There's that tiny little cell that's actually dissipating out near Boise that we were looking at. So, that little bitty dot on radar looks like that. So these are going to, perhaps bring a little bit of a ruckus. Here's what it looks like actually on Futurecast. You can see it looks like these are going to hold together as they drop on toward the south. Showers and storms coming through probably between about 8 and 11 for most of us, obviously a little sooner up to the north, and then not much going on after that. So it looks like we'll see some more rain tomorrow. I forgot to hit pause on that, but we're going to see more rainfall tomorrow, but we are not going to see a widespread heavy rain. Now, this is Tropical Depression 3. It is actually forecast to become a tropical storm. This is pretty weak. It's going to move in quickly, so we're going to gloss right over this. This has no impact for us. This one right here is something to watch. I still am leaning toward this not having an impact, but what an impressive system for June. I know you've heard this probably from multiple places, but to see a major hurricane in June is rare enough. To see one this far out that's undergone rapid intensification from a tropical depression to a major hurricane in under 2 days, that's pretty off the charts type stuff. So this is Beryl, that is now 130 mile per hour wind hurricane, so right on that category 3-4 threshold. This is going to impact the Leeward Islands, Barbados, I believe Trinidad and Tobago going to get hit as well, and those southern parts of this chain of islands here. As this continues to work just north of west, you can see it's just kind of wobbling along there, and yeah, we had a bad frame hop in, but one thing I'm seeing, because I'm going to constantly be looking for bad things on this, and when I say bad, I mean good for the destruction of the hurricane. You can see on the right flank there is a little, how this was just a thick, like buzzsaw looking thing earlier. There is that dry air spoke that's trying to work into the core. If we get dry air into the core, that could disrupt things a bit. But as it is now, this is forecast across the islands as a Category 4 hurricane. And beyond that, we have other areas we're watching. Okay, this red dot over the Gulf near Mexico, that is now Tropical Depression 3. But you see this red line out here that's moving in the same exact direction as Beryl. That's Invest 96, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to actually get to the models and all that stuff. So that's an area that looks like it's going to develop as well. Conditions have been very favorable so far for Beryl, and it's really been acting on that. And people have been asking me, what about the Saharan dust? That's something we talk about as a disruptor of these systems. So you can see what happened here, and I'm going to put this in motion. This is Beryl, that area of blue there, kind of on the west edge of the brown, and you can see actually that next system behind it forming on that southern side of this. So it's far enough south to where it's kind of tucking under that dust, and we're not really seeing that disruptive factor that we've seen in the years past. With all the other conditions, we have very warm water, light wind shear. This system was destined to become something strong here. And what I'm going to, say on 96 out here is we're going to have to see how close it ends up to Beryl, because that could cause some disruption of that system, because it would be the weaker one, of course, since Beryl has already got that big head start. So here are your tropical models. This is what it looks like Beryl's going to do. This is not the official forecast, but you can see really good agreement for the next few days. So this is going to go toward Jamaica. There you go, over Jamaica or just south, and then move across the Yucatan Peninsula. there are going to be increasingly unfavorable conditions for this as it moves into the Caribbean. So we have that we've referred to that as the graveyard out there. We're going to have increased wind shear. There will be probably some land interaction. Jamaica is quite mountainous, so something to watch there. And then, of course, as this gets toward the Yucatan Peninsula, if it's further north in the Yucatan, it's going to have less time over land, and it's going to be a bad news thing for the United States coast, because that's actually going to mean this could get tugged a little further north. So around Friday, that ridge of high pressure starts to erode. And right here at the end of this forecast, we're around late Wednesday. So if this thing, extrapolate that out and it's, near the Mexican or southern Texas coast there, as this high pressure weakens, we're not going to see this be able to make a turn to the north. If this does slow down a little bit, or we see it stay on that northern end of guidance, well, that's when I start to get a little concerned. As of now, I'm not terribly concerned, but we've seen a couple of these models start to nudge a little further north, so I'm looking at it a little more closely than I was. Well, I've been looking at it really closely. Let's just say I'm ever so slightly more concerned with this for our area. I still think it stays south and west of us. But if you're in Texas, especially if you're in Mexico, if you're having plans, to go down to Cancun, Jamaica, anywhere in the Caribbean over the next few days, you really want to check ahead. I wouldn't go to Jamaica right now. You're not going to be able to make it into these islands further east. If you have a trip planned out to Cancun, Cozumel in 4 days, 3 days, anytime in the next few days, you're probably going to want to move that, because it's just going to be a rough go down there. If anything else, the seas are going to be terrible. So here's what it looks like on the official forecast, and they're going to lean pretty close into that guidance that I was just showing you. But you can see here as we advance through, brings it across the Yucatan Peninsula as probably a category 1 or 2. This is going to change as we get further out, because intensity is really tough to forecast, but it'll cross land, could get really disrupted here by that. And then, we'll see what we have as this system comes out of there. When we get to around Jamaica, I'm thinking probably sometime late Tuesday, early Wednesday. That's when we're going to get a real good idea on the impacts for the United States, if we have any. So that's the way I'm looking at it now. That's when that's when we start to see that divergence in the models, and we'll really see which camp this is in. If this thing's riding along that northern end of this, if this crosses Jamaica or to the north, I'm going to be more concerned for our area, for Texas and all that. If it's leaning further south, if it heads in toward Belize, I think we're going to be just fine up here. That, of course, when I say that, does not mean that people's lives are not going to be seriously impacted by this. So don't take that as me praying this thing to impact other people or anything like that. It's just a difficult thing to communicate. But for our purposes, since we forecast for this area, further south track is good news for us. Further north track is going to be something that could impact us down the road. And behind this, like I said, we have a lot to talk about. There is 96L. This one has not gotten a name yet, and I apologize for that bad frame. That's just something I can't control in the satellite. But thunderstorms starting to get that little spin to it. That's up to an 80% chance for development. And what I was saying, over the last few weeks with all these storms, with Alberto, with Beryl, with that new tropical depression, there are years we'll see chances for development creep up on something, and then it doesn't happen. This year, it just seems like everything's developing. So I think this one is probably going to develop. I think there's enough space, even though there is a little bit of interaction between Beryl and 96L. We're going to have to watch this one behind this, but the crazy thing is these places here, these islands that I was talking about earlier, they're going to be impacted by a strong hurricane, and then there could be another hurricane or tropical storm that moves through in 4 days. So very active stuff here. This is the track on 96, right in the same area. Don't pay attention to those models that curve out to the north. I'm going to find a way to delete them. They're garbage. But you can see, again, very clustered in a track similar to Beryl. Now, down the line from that, it seems like this one would stay a little further south, but it's too far out. We know that because I've been leaning real far south on Beryl, and it looks like, we're getting those little ticks up to the north. And sometimes you get something to move a little bit further north, and then it gets hooked into that trough that's going to be dipping down across the Great Lakes, and that's what pulls it further north. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I'm still greatly simplifying here, but that is what it looks like all over the tropics, all our scattered stuff that's coming in tonight, and those heat advisories. But here is the 7-day forecast. We are watching the tropics closely, especially as we we get into late next weekend and early next week, mid to upper 90s, so very hot. The only thing helping us with temperatures in July is going to be rain or, God forbid, a tropical system. So it's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. We're going to have lows in the mid 70s, heat index above 105 on most of these days. And then your outlook beyond this is going to really hinge on the tropics, but it looks like warmer than normal. So mid to upper 90s continue. And we're just going to put a broad brush above normal precipitation. And again, really ties into what happens with Beryl. In fact, I'm going to pull up, I've got the GFS running right now, and it looks like the afternoon run that's coming in. Yeah, it's pretty much doing the same thing, taking this, it's taking it, this just one run. I don't have the ensembles out, but it's taking it, it's keeping it near Brownsville, something like that. So kind of in line with what it's been doing. I'm going to look more deeply into that here in the evening. I'm going to be setting some stuff up. We got a lot going on around here, and I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. Yesterday's morning live was an absolute disaster because I was out of town, and I realized when I got home I just needed to restart this machine. It was giving me the problem. So, all right, I will see you guys bright and early in the morning. We'll talk tropics. We'll talk everything and anything that comes up. Have a wonderful Sunday evening. Relax, enjoy. Any sort of travel plans, I'm telling you, any sort of travel plans in the tropics for the next few months, you're going to be so nervous about them. So if you see a real cheap deal on something, that's why. It looks like it's going to be real busy here through tropical season. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'll see you in the morning.